On today's video, we're going to tell you about some more of the books that we've been reading. So, we read a lot of comics in our spare time. Not all of the time do they get to fit into the show. Never has that been the case more than with Hawkeye and Daredevil, because you managed to pick the first editions up. I missed them, and I'm waiting for the trade, and it's been a whole kerfuffle. But now, both trades have come out. Well, Volume 4 of Daredevil has come out, and Volume 1 of Hawkeye has come out. So let's talk about some Hawkeye. Let's finally talk about some Hawkeye.
At long last. So...
I mean, it was your #1 book of last year.
Oh, yeah.
And so, you obviously love it.
I do.
I also love it.
Of course you do. I mean, you have to with a book like this.
It's so much fun, and genuinely funny. One of the only books I'm reading, in fact, that sometimes Wolverine and the X-Men, sometimes Thor, but not on the same level. Not on the same level as Hawkeye.
Not as funny as Hawkeye censoring Hawkeye.
That's great. Do you know what got me sorry, spoilers, by the way. But
I've waited long enough to talk about this. We're doing spoilers.
What got me was the trick arrows. They are so funny. Like each one that comes, and like the little cheesy panel, like boomerang arrow. It always comes back. And just so much fun, lighthearted. I was a bit disappointed that I only got 5 issues in the trade, and then an issue from like 5 years ago of Young Avengers, which was annoying. And it annoys me because it's just such a slap in the face. But obviously, I think the next story must be 2 parts or 3 parts, or it's the one after the videotape story.
No, it's a one-off.
Well, then why wasn't
the one after the videotape story is a Christmas story, followed by a Hurricane Katrina story.
Well, I have no idea then why we only get 5 issues in this. I have when every other trade you buy is 6 issues.
Yeah, no, I do agree. It was a bit cheeky, especially with this being one of the most anticipated trade paperbacks to come out. But
anyway.
And obviously you also weren't happy about it coming out in only trade paperback, because you love a hardcover.
I mean, these are just kind of geeky issues that I have, but
let's discuss them.
The Daredevil comes out in hardcover, and they're great, and they look really nice on my shelf and in my collection. But then I just don't understand how they decide what comes out in hardback and what comes out in paperback. The paperback is only £3 cheaper than the hardback. And the Daredevil trades have been fantastic. Sometimes they've had like 7 issues in, and they've just been great.
Oh, I mean, the amount that you got in this is insane.
Well, it's 6 issues.
Yeah.
Which is what trades should be. Yeah. The one before that, the Punisher Spider-Man crossover, was 7 issues because it had to have issues of different things. But that aside, I mean, I loved it. I assume for all the same reasons you did.
Oh yeah, I mean, artwork check, story check, character check. Like, what else do you need?
Yeah, even when they got the fill-in artist.
The fill-in artist, I can't remember their name, but it's so seamless with the rest of the book, in my opinion. Like,
it's seamless. It's definitely.
But I like the fact that you're just going to pull up the cover. Yeah, it was the tape one.
Pulido.
Yeah, it was a bit noticeable, but it was
definitely
a similar style, so it worked very well.
The coloring was the same. They used the same colorist, and that's why I think that always helps. But
oh, sorry. Front covers. I noticed they did that. Sorry, geeky aside again. I noticed they did that in The Big Bang Theory. There's an issue where they're looking through them all, talking about them, and they've put the card on the other side of the book so you can see the cover. There you go, little film trickery there.
Okay, yeah. So Hawkeye.
Hawkeye's amazing.
Astounding success.
You have to buy
if you're not reading it, make sure you buy the trade. What the hell are you doing?
Yeah, no, seriously, it's fucking amazing.
With so many books on the table
today. I know, it's crazy. Well, you forgot to bring your trades,
I did forget to bring them.
These are all my thingles.
Should we go into Daredevil? So Daredevil has been another solid book. It's another one of Dale's favorites that we haven't been allowed to talk about. So I think I'll let you. This little collection is it talks about Foggy and Matt's relationship and how Foggy is starting to mistrust the new persona that Matt has, and that reflects in the superhero Daredevilness as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fantastic the way that even Foggy Nelson is kind of going, we've had like the last 20 years of your life be absolute misery. Why are you happy? Like, what is all this? And you know, there's There's real conflict in their friendship, which, by the way, when you get to volume 5, oh my god, I'm not going to go into it, but that is the main highlight of this, but it is covered in this nice wrapping of brilliant villainy, like with the introduction of the character Coyote, because the way he's introduced makes you go, oh my god, from the first issue, that was the smallest little bit, and I can't believe they're bringing that back, which I found fantastic. The artwork, like we've changed artists now, we're no longer with Riviera, and we've now moved on to Chris Samney. And Samney, it's a very different style, but it just works for this book so much. And of course, we get our cheeky little number 17 filler here by Mr. Mike Allred,
who we love.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree. But also, what's great about the villainy, as you put it, is the fact that they play on the relationship of Foggy and Matt, and you know, so Foggy thinks that Matt is insane, so he makes the villain goes out of his way to make Foggy think that even more, which I think is fantastic. And not only that, but there's a brilliant mystery element to it where you're like, well, is he?
Is he? Yeah, you're not quite sure because you don't know what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. So so issue to issue, you're like, oh, well, I don't, is he going insane? Like this thing with his wife, and like, because the Spot.
The Spot, yeah.
He's in the first issue, but he's not in your head. Like he's completely gone out of your head.
Because it's literally the first 5 pages of the first issue. And what I have to say about Daredevil, if you're not picking up it in trade, I highly recommend it. If you're not picking it up in singles, but were also, it's definitely worth picking up again, because it's every single issue is a cliffhanger, and like
in a good way.
Because it's one of the only books that every month I will think to myself, oh, I wonder what's going to happen in that. I wonder what's, not even Hawkeye, because Hawkeye kind of has its nice contained stories, but Batman and Daredevil are the only 2 books that are constantly on it. And by the way, I'm not going to spoil it, but there's a joke in the newest issue of Daredevil that will... it's one of the funniest things I've read in comics.
I'll tell you, I thought it was funny in July.
Brilliant. Okay, so the last book we're going to talk about is DC this time, and it's Green Lantern's Sinestro Corps Wars. Got it right at last. Oh no, wait, that video hasn't aired yet. No. Never mind. So this is the Jeff Johns Green Lantern, someone who we've talked about before on this show. And
following on from his Rebirth.
Yeah, it was Rebirth and then a couple others, and then this was the big event. The basic premise is Sinestro has finally gathered the resources to start up his own corps using the emotion of fear as the driving force behind it, and he's got some big hitters on his side. He's got the Anti-Monitor, Superman Prime, Hank Henshaw, the Cyber Superman, and they wreak havoc on the Green Lantern Corps and bring them to the verge of war. Oh, and of course they also have Parallax on their team. What did you think of this book? Because I'm very interested to hear.
Well, I read it a couple of years ago now, so it's sort of like, but I love it. I mean, this is great Green Lantern. This is the Green Lantern we need today that we don't have. This, what Jeff Johns did with this character, especially at this stage. I mean, this was the start of all the different corps and all that kind of thing. And reading this book, I read it much longer after it come out. But reading it, you really got a sense of how exciting a time it was for Green Lantern and all the different possibilities that up until this point hadn't been explored.
Which is crazy, because some of the things they're talking about, like yellow rings and the blue ones, how did they not think of that years ago? Like, how did it take this long to come out?
But now you look at it and you think, well...
I don't know, I like it. I think it makes sense.
But it hasn't been handled well at all, I don't think. But yeah, no, the big hitters are great. Like, they dominate for large part of this book. Can't speak. And it's a real good exercise in bringing your heroes to their lowest point to have them kind of rise back up again, similar to the... Yeah,
I mean, in this, Hal Jordan's still reeling from the loss of Coast City and the rebirth of that. You've got all the Earth members of the Green Lantern Corps, along with Kilowog and them lot. But the star of the book is Sinestro. Like, I put Sinestro on par with Doctor Doom for best villain. For the reason that Sinestro and Doctor Doom are two characters where they will tell you why they are doing what they're doing, and you will go, yeah, I get why you're doing that. That actually makes sense. Yeah, they just make sense. And there are parts of this book where you're reading it and you're going, you know, he's kind of in the right here. Like, I kind of see, and the end of the book, which again, I won't spoil, but I highly recommend you go out and read it if you haven't, is absolutely fantastic. And also, as well as Sinestro stealing the spotlight, I have to say, just underneath him, for me, is Hank Henshaw, the Cyborg Superman. His story is so sad. Yeah. Like, they make you feel so much empathy for the villains that it's almost unfair to use such a word on them.
On paper, the sort of Cyborg Superman and Superman Prime seem like, okay.
I didn't get Superman Prime a lot. Didn't really get that.
I love his character and I love his origin. Like, I prefer his origin.
They didn't explain the origin in this book. Maybe. So he kind of shows up.
Do you know what?
He's got a scar of a...
Do you know what? It's because when I read this, I also read all the bits in between. Like, there's a Superman Prime miniseries where they explain his origin and stuff
This gives you Green Lantern and Green Lantern Corps.
Oh, I see.
So I haven't read any of the stuff with Superman Prime.
Oh, that's a shame.
The Anti-Monitor.
The Superman Prime stuff is great. His
or Hank Henshaw. I only got what they gave us. What they gave us was fantastic.
That's interesting because, of course, this is a whole event that happened across DC Comics. So I don't know what the best way to read it is, but it's certainly a great story regardless.
Indeed it is. So fantastic. Thanks very much for joining us this week. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you have, comment down below. Yeah. What have you been reading?
What have you been reading?
Also, tweet it at us at Comic Book Show 1. We're over there. Just, go and look for us. We're funny.
Absolutely. All the links you need for connectivity will be in the
I like to think that I went in with such gust and then you just kind of,
all of the links down there.
Yeah.
Sell. Anyway, we hope you enjoyed this week's videos and we'll see you next week.